Hello, and welcome indeed. Thanks for spending your break with us today.
Yep.
We're back.
Bob, Susan, what's up?
Oh, well, we're just so excited to be Cowsills today because why? We have a podcast. And so I always get super excited on podcast day. I don't know what's up with you, Bob.
Well, we always have to think, well, what are we going to talk about? We have a podcast. We can't sit there.
Right.
So, we came up with something fun. Each of us, anybody who's a performer has the first day of their life where they stood up in front of an audience and turned around and thought, oh my God, I'm going to sing to an audience. That's okay. So we thought we'll take, not as the Cowsills as a group, we'll take ourselves individually and take you through the very first time we performed and how old we were and what were the circumstances. So who goes first?
Okay, can I go first?
Susan is going to go first, ladies and gentlemen.
Is this band oriented?
No. Here's what I'm going to do.
The band can be there, but it's not like you're saying for the band to get into the band or anything. You sang to an audience. Here's
the thing. So I'm going to give you my first public appearance before Cowsills and then my first Cowsill public appearance. Okay. Okay, great. So we live on Indian Avenue and I go to Howland School and it's my first year to go on the bus with the guys and that's very exciting. And there is a school play. Holy cow, I want to be in the school play. So I audition for the part of the rooster who gets to sing, "Little boy blue, come blow your horn. The sheep's in the meadow, the cow's in the corn. But where is the boy who looks after the sheep? He's under the haystack fast asleep."
Well, that stuck with her.
I got the part. And then Mom made me, I had a red leotard, red tights, and she made me a rooster tail. That was my first performance. I did very well.
And how old were you? 38?
It was in the first grade. That was that Halloween that I wore the rooster tail, Bob.
All right. So that's your first.
Just kidding, of course.
So basically, you're saying Howland School.
Howland School, okay. First grade, the first possible chance of getting on a stage I had, because I sure wasn't getting anywhere in that back room at the house. But then soon come, I finally made my way into this band kicking and screaming. And my first performance with the Cowsills was in Newport, Rhode Island at Kings Park.
Wow.
And I think I auditioned to get in the band maybe a few weeks before, and I passed with Sweet Talking Guy.
Now, can I just say one thing? Let me say one thing. Kings Park, folks. Kings Park was a little park at the foot on Wellington Avenue, along Wellington Avenue of Paladin Hall. So I wanted people to know where that was.
Yeah, my first gig was right down the
big festival with rides. Okay,
and there was rides. Okay, but it's my first performance. It's the first time I got to show up, be with the guys, do the right thing. I was probably 6. So, and that's probably why I didn't get in the band for another 2 years officially, really, after that. So, what I remember, and the only thing I remember, I don't remember the stage, I don't remember how I got on it, I remember being on it, but I remember hearing from the top of the octopus ride, Ryan, top of the octopus, and I hear, "Ladies and gentlemen, Newport's own the Cowsills," and I'm at the top of the octopus.
Oh, and no way.
Yes, Paul, yes. And I don't know how dudes, I lost my you-know-what. And Linda goes, "Oh, my God." And I'm screaming to the guy, "Let me out." He's letting somebody on, and we were stopped. And I'm screaming, "Let me out." I mean, like, you know how I could get when I was little, you guys, and I am going.
Yeah. So did Dad end up at the bottom of that thing?
Buddy, I know Linda screaming and we got me down. I remember her and I hitting the ground running and that's all I remember.
So you get to the stage.
I don't know. I just see me and Linda Ryan. She's got my hand, blonde hair flapping in the wind.
Listen,
made it.
Everybody.
And I'm on the stage. I know that because you were on my mind and I
Susan
whatever.
Said it took her 2 years to get back in the band. We did fire her that night for lack of commitment. We couldn't.
I blew it.
Oh, dude, I didn't even know that story.
Listen, I hadn't even gotten a manager yet. Had I had my manager in place, it would have had me on stage on time. Okay, that's me.
All right, Paul, what do you got, Paul?
Okay, just two real quick ones. So I'm in the first grade and I'm going to St. Joe's in Newport, Rhode Island, and I'm auditioning to get in the choir. Bob, Rich, Bill, they're in the choir. They've been in the choir forever, and I need to be a part of that. So I go in that day, and it's Silent Night is our song, and I sing it, and I didn't get in. I didn't get in. I know. And so I went home, and I was crying, and Mom was going, "Oh, don't worry, I'm going to get you in there." And so what she did was she taught me the second verse of Silent Night.
Oh.
And so I went back in there the next day, and you know what? She could have called the school and said, "Hey, don't mess around with my kid. Get him in the choir. His brothers are in there. He's got to be in there." But anyway, so I went in, I sang it, and I was in the band. Awesome. And as far as my first thing before, like you, Susan, I'm Kings Park, and it was pretty normal, except when I was on the stage, I saw the Little League field that I had played an all-star game in, and so that was kind of unique from my perspective on that. But the first time was in Canton, Ohio, and it was just a daily thing. Mom would take me to. I must not have even been in school yet or something. And
he's a prodigy.
We were on the radio. We sang, "You got the whole world in his hands. You got the whole wide world." We all sang it. A bunch of little kids, me and about 40 other kids that are there for days.
They have the itty bitty baby.
Yeah, and we sang that. But guys, it was on the radio. It was on the radio. And so that's fine. Those are my two.
First Cowsill on the radio. Who knew?
They never documented back then. It's like nobody pulled out a camera. Nobody. We're too busy living. Today they document and live. Back then,
the only time I ever took pictures of us before Cowsills, before Sullivan BS, I like to say, was like Easter and Christmas.
Very rare. Okay, here's mine. How old are you in the third grade? 6, 7, 8. I'm 8 years old. Third grade, again, St. Joseph's School. Now, for those of you people, St. Joseph's is in Newport. It's right behind the Strand Theater, a movie theater. And we all went there. We lived in the Anchorage, which was Navy housing. And then we moved to 3rd Street, okay? And we walked to school from 3rd Street to St. Joseph's.
Yeah.
Uphill in the snow, barefoot.
3rd grade, I get it in my head. I'm going to sing for the 3rd grade class. So now I've been playing the guitar for 2 years by now. Okay, seriously. And I put that thing on my back. I didn't have a case. I put the guitar on my back and I got my books and I head out. Now you had to walk down Thames Street to get to St. Joseph's. Okay, so I'm walking down Thames Street, and every time I walk to school on Thames Street, we always stop to look at the pictures of the women in their bikinis in the Blue Moon Saloon window. And so I stop and look at the Blue Moon Saloon. And I'm heading to class, and I get to class, and I have Sister Patrice. Sister Patrice introduces me. Now, class, Robert is going to sing for the class. Yep, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what got into me?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
I thought I was a pretty hot singer. Anyway.
Hey, nice.
So I get my guitar, and I get in front of the class, and I sing this song. All day, all night, Marianne, down by the seashore, sifting sand. Even little children love Marianne, down by the seesaw, shifting sand. Marianne, oh Marianne, won't you marry me? All that business.
Yeah.
All day, all night, Marianne.
Marianne was a big hit by the Brothers 4 back then, I think. It must have been 19.
Well, you guys learned it too. You and Bill used to. That's a song I remember forever.
You don't sing that at the Catholic school. What happened?
I stood there in front of the class and did that, and it got high-fived and stuff, I guess. But I probably thought I was a pretty big deal. But that's my, hey, cool. Our guest today is Richie Furay. We should ask him the same question. What?
Well, it was his first. But Bob, I want to know one thing. Did the sister take you aside and say, Robert, that was inappropriate topic matter for this morning's show and tell?
That was okay.
All day, all night, Marianne, Paul.
Well, they made a joke about
all that. All day, all night, Marianne.
Yeah, it was all day, all night, Marianne. All day, all night, Marianne. All day, all night, Marianne. Who the hell do you think I am, Superman? I mean, they used to joke about that song.
Okay. Oh, I gotcha.
That's the one I remember. Oh, but you modified. How nice of you.
And from that point forward, I knew I was meant to sing to schoolroom crowds And that's why the concerts later at Rogers High School and Middletown High School tied all that in for me.
Okay, but Robert,
yeah.
What was your first, without Paul and I, John Barry, what was your first professional Cowsill? As either the Cowsill brothers or whoever you and Billy were or whatever.
Well, the first.
Do you remember your first real, okay, we're going, me and Billy, we're getting paid, here we go.
The very first gig that I got paid at, Bill and I got hired. Now I'm 12 in Newport. And we got hired by
a man of the world.
By the Newport Women's Guild Club to come and sing at the luncheon as a duet. Now, actually, that wasn't.
How old were you, Bob?
12, which means I've been playing for 5 years the guitar.
10 years.
Yeah. We got $10 each, $10 each. And of course, I'm mistaken on the timeline because I remember Paul in Ohio. We went on TV on that Spotlight on Talent TV show, me and Bill, and Bill and Mom sang at a talent show at St. Joseph's School in Canton, Ohio, and we sang rock and roll. Yeah, we sang Rock and Rollin' Ocean. Bring Her Back to Me is all I remember, and the Wayward Wind.
No, you didn't.
Ocean, lead your ear this way.
Wow, I have a lousy rooster show and then my failed first attempt, my first firing from the Cowsills,
Susan, I guess. By the time you arrived at the ripe old age of 8 to look at the serious band, we're professionals by then.
You were,
We're looking for the Linda Ronstadts out there, not the Susan Cowsills. What do we know,
Yeah, I was having a good time. See, can you imagine that though, guys? I didn't know. How did I escape the pod and get lost? But it was Kings Park, for God's sake. We were probably right next to the stage. And I'm probably thinking...
I don't know what the Kings Park show was all about. Why the whole family, including Mom, was there. Whose thought was that? I'm going to assume Dad's. Hey,
but then what was the Rogers High? Then the same question, because I was at Rogers High too. I had black boots, yellow dress.
By Rogers High School and the dances at Middletown High, by that time, we're getting popular because we're playing Dorians on Bannister's Wharf in Newport.
You guys, though.
Yeah, we're playing the Bastille.
But why am I there? Why is Polly and Dickie there? Wasn't even Dickie at Rogers?
That's what the hootenanny thing was.
The Rogers High School night was Mom and Dad could not find a babysitter for you.
Are you telling me that?
Just take her up on the stage.
You're lying. You're just saying that.
And watch her.
You're so full of it. Oh, great. That's the new story. How did I get in the band? Because Paul joined and he was my sitter, so they had to take me.
Let me say one thing.
I was your sitter, so they had to take me because you were
whatever. Who knows? Chicken, egg, whatever there.
Paul and Susan joke about getting in the band a little later, but I need to say, when those two came on, that brought us to the top of the mountain in terms of our vocal stack. Our vocal stack expanded.
There you go.
Got higher.
Paul and I don't like to toot our own horns, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. Richie's here.
Our guest is you guys today. We were just going to start talking about Richie Furay, hoping we could talk to him before he showed up and talk about him. But he is here.
Okay, I'll go back and do this again.
No.
You're good. We got to go through a few things because we were going to start talking about you because when you have a guest on, you start thinking about our memories with the guest. Now, we have memories with you, Richie, but you don't necessarily have them with us. For instance.
That's right.
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with you, though. I mean, listen, that doesn't have a thing to do with you guys.
No, but you did. For instance, me and Paul were in the Troubadour audience in 1969 when you guys played the Troubadour. We were there, and you blew us away with Rusty Young.
Yeah.
I remember Paul Cotton singing something about bad weather even. I remember things from that night that were so specific and the thunderous sound from the stage. But I did a math thing. I sang at a pub for 28 years. Now I averaged out the 28 years to 3 nights a week. Many times it was 5, sometimes it was 2. So let's keep it at 3. In the first set, so that's 4,386 nights. In the first set of every one of those performances, I sang Kind Woman because Kind Woman was a good first set song. So I've sung Kind Woman, estimatingly 4,386 times. And I was wondering from Richie if he could top that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Richie Furay.
Bob, I don't know what to say, Bob. You're too much of a mathematician. Math was not my specialty in school, that's for sure. But you know what?
Go ahead.
I did record it and play it so many times that finally I did a recording of it in, I think, 2006, that I had to put it in time. So if you sang it out of time, then add that time to your time and see what you come up with.
Well, hold on. I'd like to get in on this. I have hummed that song, I don't know how many times, by myself, with the band Buffalo Springfield, and at Bob's Pub. I might be the winner.
Susan.
I got to tell you that Bob and Richie right there knew their math together. See, Richie, for the last 10 years, I've been hearing somebody come up to my brother Bob and go, Bob, you've got to get a hold of Richie Furay, you know? And I'm going, wow, he's getting a hold of Richie Furay. So if he knows Bob, because somebody told him that Richie wants to talk to him. And so I'm thinking, God, if he knows Bob, then he knows of me. And then it's like a bromance, you know?
Okay. And then I get to the Wild Honey show, and this guy comes up to me, and he says to me, I need to know where your brother Bob Cowsills is. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here?
That's what I'm talking about.
Now,
romance.
Let me explain something. A very nice guy, Jonathan Rosenbaum, I think. Jonathan was somebody I met at one of our shows and in our audiences in different cities. And he would come up to me, and he knew that Buffalo Springfield, when I'm 16, 17, and 18, Buffalo Springfield are it for me. Okay, I'm hanging on every word that these guys are saying. And, you know, to me, they're in their 30s. You know, I'm like 16, like Buffalo, they're just young 20-somethings probably. But Jonathan said, you know, you love the Buffalo, you know, you should call Richie Furay. And I'm going, oh, yeah, Richie Furay. What am I going to say to Richie? What am I going to say to Richie Furay? You know, it's like, hey, I like your band. Duh. You know, it's like. Yeah.
So
he loved you as a troubadour.
and Jonathan is a friend, I think, of Richie. And he said, no, I can hook you up. And I go, oh, okay, Jonathan. And I'd see him then next year in New Jersey. He'd be in the audience. Hey, did you call Richie? Yeah. No, I haven't really touched out.
So you know what we did, Richie? We went and got a whole podcast just to talk to you.
Oh, God.
Richie Furay. And we finally hook up. And I should have done it a long time ago. I think he would have invited me to his place in Colorado.
All right. So guess what?
You want to come on out now? Come on out now. We're expecting up to maybe 5 to 6 feet of snow where I live.
Oh, my goodness.
Where is that?
Over the next 2 days. Or Saturday, I think Friday through Sunday.
Where do you live?
Major storms. So, but you guys are more than welcome to come on out, man. I need all the shovelers I can get.
Richie, where do you live?
Live in Boulder, west of Boulder, right in the foothills.
Okay, but listen.
I'm from Oregon. I got my snow here.
Listen, you've done well in life. So I'm going to assume that we come to your place in Boulder and we drive up and get there. Pretty soon near your place, everything's clear because you've put heat sensors in the road. You got heat sensors in your house you can flip on when the snow comes. You're not shoveling snow. No way.
Actually, I am. I mean, I do, but this is going to be something different. But I do have the truck all chained up. I got the plow on. I've got the generator, make sure it's all ready to go. I've got wood on the porch, and I've got my little bag of coffee. So I'm okay.
You're ready to go.
Listen, this is snow shoveling the new way. When we were kids in Ohio, when it snowed, we had these aluminum snow shovels, and it was called $5 a lawn. And me and my brothers, we fanned out like an army over that neighborhood, shoveling people's driveways for $5 a driveway. And we made a lot of money.
You guys,
Richie's from Ohio.
You never came down to my town in Yellow Springs to get my little driveway.
No, once we shoveled ourselves out of Canton, we got too tired. But anyway,
we didn't get you all the way over here on our Zoom podcast to talk about snow.
The weather, right? Let's talk about the weather.
We have questions. And man, now, Richie, anything make you uncomfortable and anything that you're uncomfortable answering, too bad. This is our shot.
I've got a thing over here that says leave. I can just leave the car.
Yeah, you can.
That's okay. We know so much of your history. We'll fill in the answers ourselves if you disappear.
Yeah, we're going to try and let you actually answer the questions.
You can go like this and say, oh, my screen's going wacko.
Who gets to ask the first question?
Well, Susan, you can because you're the girl.
Thanks. Love that. Hi, Richie.
Susan's the girl. If we walk into a restaurant without Susan, people think we're the Osmonds. As soon as Susan shows up, oh, it's the Cowsills. I get it.
Well, why do you think that? You don't think I look as good as Marie, and maybe they just think I'm Marie? Look, okay, whatever. They're Richie.
You were 8 years old. Go ahead.
Oh, that. Hi, how are you? Richie and I actually met in Los Angeles for the Wild Honey show, right?
Yeah, we did, Susan. Absolutely.
And that was really fun. And then, of course, all you wanted to do was talk about Bob, but we'll move along.
No,
my question is...
All right, enough of that.
I'm just kidding, you guys. All right. So Buffalo Springfield, I live in a house full of music that is not our own. And I mean, everybody has a record player. And he's not kidding when he says Buffalo. So that's why it's in my soul. But I always wondered who was singing the leads. This is something I did when I was a kid anyway, because sometimes the whole band sounded alike and you couldn't really tell, but then others had different voices for lead singing. So in Buffalo, how much lead singing did you do? And did you have a main guy, or did y'all try and split it up, or what?
You know, it was really interesting when Stephen and I did get together, and it was like I was working at Pratt & Whitney Aircraft.
Wow.
And,
okay, day job.
And Graham Parsons brought me the Byrds' first record, and I said, "Oh my goodness, I got to get a hold of Stephen and find out what is going on." So when he said, "Come on out to California, I got a group together. All I need is another singer." And so I said, "Okay, let me take care of my business here, and I'll be right out." When I got out there, it was Stephen and I were the band. There was no Neil Young, there was no Bruce Palmer, and we sat in a little apartment. That was, just a tiny little room. And Stephen had written all of the songs that he had written for the first Buffalo Springfield record.
Wow.
And we sat there and we learned them. We learned to phrase together, sing together, harmonize together.
Awesome.
And so we actually took, because the Springfield did have 3 lead singers, obviously Stephen, Neil Young.
When you always knew when it was Stephen, but...
And Neil Young, you always knew when it was Neil too.
Oh yeah.
and myself. But the other component was that we took this Lennon and McCartney thing where they sang in unison.
That's the guy I'm talking about.
That's where Stephen and I would sing together. And that's the voice that, was kind of like his roughness and my, I don't know what the other part of my part was, but.
Angelic.
Yeah, well, when they put the two of them together, it made 4 lead singers.
Well, that's really actually a true thing. I have a duo thing with my sister-in-law, and we're the Psycho Sisters. And when we do 2-part, that's what we do. But we have 3 people in the band when we do unison, because that makes a whole other voice. And when Bob and Bill, my brothers Bob and Bill used to unison, that was a 3rd guy. So I get a little, and we still do it. But that explains, Bob and Paul have a 3rd guy. Plus, we're all nuts. But anyway,
that's very cool.
And then there's that. But that explains that, because it would be like, wait a minute, now which one? That doesn't sound like Stephen or Neil. Who the heck is that guy? Yeah. Or you?
Let me follow that up with one of mine then.
Buffalo. If you look on the back of the first Buffalo Springfield record, it does say Stephen with Richie or Stephen and Richie.
I'll have to go do that. What do you got, Bob?
The second album, everything, after the first album, things were just really changing so rapidly in that stuff never really happened again. But anyway, so there's your 4th voice. So we had 4 lead singers.
Cool, that's my answer. Bob, what do you got?
Well, sticking with that a little, when you went into the studio, and was it in terms of how you recorded, if the person came in who wrote the song, did they kind of have, it says Ahmet Ertegun and all that, but did in the studio itself, did the person who brought it, like with Kind Woman and Sit Down, I think, did the writer lead the session, and did all the arrangement ideas have to go through the writer of that song, or did they come in with it all completed in their head?
Good
and you
question.
guys just each learned each other's songs? And when you got in the studio, did you build your tracks first? Did you basic track and then vocals? How did you do? What was your process?
Well, we usually took the songs into the studio already predetermined, how we thought they were going to be. That's not always true with everything. Like with Neil's Mr. Soul, Neil took a run at it. I took a run at it. Steven took a run at it. Oh, and so, we all took a different run at it. And Neil ended up singing that song. But most of the time we would go into the studio and, we cut in Gold Star on a 4-track. It was like it was little
Gold
stuff.
Star again. Yeah.
Yeah. And what we did was we laid down the tracks and then we would overdub the vocals. Boy, do I not like to do that today. I hate that. But that was how we did it then. We would go in and the songs were pretty much worked out. Believe me, we could spend enough time in the studio doing nothing that if we got in there and have some idea where we were going with the song, it would have been critical. But so, yeah, we laid down the tracks. We were actually one of the very first bands that didn't use the Wrecking Crew as a backup band. And sometimes, you wonder, well, should we have done that? I've learned over the years that recording in Nashville for the last, I don't know how many years, boy, when you take those guys in the studio, they are... their business, and they lay it down in 3 times and they're done. They're fast.
They're very efficient. Wow. But you guys in your tracks, I had this Super Beetle amplifier and it had a knob on it so that we were playing at this pub in Newport, Rhode Island when you guys were big, learning all your songs, and we learned For What It's Worth, and it had the knob on it that I could click and get the guitar intro. We were all over that. We were all over that song. Yeah. And Mr. Soul. Now on Bluebird sounds like you attached the end of the song to the song itself as soon as the banjo starts. Is that how that was put together? Did you do those separately?
They were done separately. Steven actually took the tracks back to New York, and there was a guy back there that when we were playing in this little folk club called the Four Winds, it was on West 3rd Street or 4th Street. I can't remember now which, but there was a guy named Charlie Chin. And Charlie was a banjo player that he was like, back doing the same things we were doing, just playing in these little pass the basket clubs back in New York. And Steven took the track, the tracks back to New York and had Charlie overdub, which was, it was like when we first heard that, when he brought it back, it was like, oh my gosh, this is like wild, Wow. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
So the song was pretty much done, but then the second part of it was the last part where Charlie played was like overdubbed back in New York.
And you double tracked your vocals a lot. It sounds like we did that especially on the "Do You Think She Loves You" part. You
fatten them up a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great sound.
Yeah.
Okay, so amazing music was had. Oh yeah, Paulie.
Well. So I got a question. So you go from a couple inside this time. You go in 68 from Buffalo Springfield right into Poco in 69. And you get there, and it seemed to me that you got all the music done and everything was ready to go, and they needed you to change your name because you were Pogo and not Poco, because Pogo was like a cartoon strip and the guy that wrote it was saying nix on the name. So how did you come up with Poco? Was that at last second?
We trying to even find a name that we really liked. Our road manager type guy at the time, he's the one that suggested Pogo, and that was a mistake. That was really bad.
Right.
And we're very thankful for Walt Kelly suing us with a stack of papers. He said, "Get out of my tree. You can't. This is my guy. Yeah. And I just like to say. And I don't know if this is how it happened. I don't think it's how it happened, but I just like to say we took the little line off the G and it became Poco, and that was it. Goodbye.
Gotcha.
Because we already had a following. You're right. We had a following at the Troubadour, and we've been playing for a while. And here now, what? We got to change our name, and what are we going to do? So take that little line off and just straight ahead.
Okay, that's awesome. That was too funny. Well, I had one more, and this was as I was just gathering information and stuff. I gathered some information, and I just was trying to figure out what the heck happened there. And it's when you guys were mixing, and you asked Randy Meisner not to come to the final mix, the playback sessions. And I was just wondering, why was it just you and Messina?
Well, you know, and there's 3 different stories for that whole scenario too. Jimmy has a story, I have a story, and Randy has a story.
We only believe yours.
You know, what I'd like to say, just to sort it out, is, you know, when you're mixing, it's a tedious job. And Jimmy certainly was the guy behind the board. He's the guy that had the technical abilities, you know, and you know, the EQ.
He's the guy who sat at the helm. Go ahead.
And so I don't want to say that it was that Randy was told that he couldn't come, but there was a certain period of time when we were mixing the songs that we wanted to get them to a place, and I know how that even goes today. You know, get them to a place, listen to them, and then give me some more input, and that would have been fine. But Randy wanted to be there for the whole process, I guess. And so it was basically, there was just so much going on at that time, and it was kind of tedious that we just said, look, we just need to have, or I'm just saying, this is how I'm seeing it through at this point in time, that we just need this time just to get this to a place where it is listenable, you know, where things are balanced and EQ'd in what, you know, is going to be, you know, probably pleasant to the ear.
Well, to be fair, I was in a band, the Continental Drifters, a lot of singer-songwriters, a lot of leaders, and we had to have a rule because of that very thing. It's like there's somebody who's sitting right there, and if you can be quiet, I mean, there's a time and a place for the chime in, and then there's the get it set stuff. And if you have too many people wanting to be the get it set, I like to be on the fly on the wall the whole time. But there's the come in and listen. Okay, now it's ready. It's brought to a spot. And if you got somebody who's just jumping at the jaw, it's like, it's kind of not so good.
You need peace and quiet to mix. You absolutely need peace and quiet to mix.
It can get chaotic. And I understand that, you know. So, and I even appreciate that today, you know. I mean, even when I was doing a lot of my work with John Macy back here in Denver, you know, I mean, John would get the things to a place where now come in and let's just see where we go.
But that's a fun thing. I think that's great. I mean, that's my favorite thing is to stay on the premises, but and if it's a few hours or that day, you come in, you sit down, everybody gets together, you go away again, bring it, you know, that's to me the process. I love that process. But, and I know that, excuse me, I know that behavior. So that's interesting. That's that, you know, lots of leaders.
So Richie,
it created a lot of conflict, you know, and I'm really sorry for that. Although, you know, truthfully, I really believe that Timothy was to be we auditioned Randy and Timothy on the same day.
Oh,
and,
wow.
And I had this little note. I was going through a box of stuff. You know, you have boxes of stuff. And I was going through boxes of stuff, and I found a note from Timothy. And he wrote, and he said, hey, thanks for letting me audition for the band. I know you guys are going to make the right decision. And it was just really fun meeting you guys and being able to have the opportunity to And so, I mean, I actually framed that thing and sent it off to him a couple of years ago.
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, Randy, very, very talented guy. Timothy, very obviously, both of them made it to the Eagles. You know, that's the next step.
Right?
Crazy.
Crazy, right?
You know, maybe it's because of my relationship with Timothy, because Timothy and I have a really good relationship. So, but Randy was very talented, but as well. But you know, it's just my own personal feelings. But you know, I was sorry for that chaos, but I think that it was supposed to happen so that we could bring Timothy into the band.
Well, since you brought up conflict and chaos, little did any of us know in '68 that to be a Buffalo Springfield fan, we were going to encounter conflict and chaos. Because we need to know just as I know you could write a book on it, probably have, but in terms of when the band broke up in '68, look, there's no internet, there's no Twitter alerts, there's no email, there's a phone call. Okay, that's how you did it. So we're fans. All of a sudden, you're gone. Now, we don't read newspapers. We're not following the news or anything. But what's with Buffalo Springfield? Oh, they broke up. What?
What?
You were the first band that ever broke up that got news back to us that you broke up, and we never even understood the concept of it because we're in a family band. No one's going anywhere. Well, that's
right. You guys are locked in.
We're locked in.
Oh, yeah.
And you're not locked in, but we realized, certainly as fans in your records, there are factions in this group. There's what I called the Neil Young arm, and the Stephen Stills arm, and the Richie Furay arm. Now, little did we know when you broke up, those three arms are going to make their own little empires, and we're going to all be happy. Okay. No, it's true. Because when you broke up, it's like we were crushed.
Yeah.
No more.
Bob was crushed.
So my question, if you could just take us through quickly why it finally disbanded after being so successful. And then even more important, how could you do that to us fans who were 16 and 17-year-olds hanging on every word you were saying?
Listen, we were much older than you guys, let me tell you. Maybe it would have been differently. Well, here's the thing. Stephen and I had a relationship from New York because we played in that same little Four Winds club back in New York. I always said in my heart of hearts, because make no mistake about it, Buffalo Springfield was Stephen's band. He was the heart and the soul of the band. Without him, there was no band. And so in my heart of hearts, I said, as long as Stephen's there, I'll be there. Now, to kind of, as we've heard the word, we'll circle back on this now. Okay. And there were 9 people in and out of Buffalo Springfield in 2 years.
Wow.
Neil had, Neil, I believe, always wanted to be a solo artist. Now, had we, and I'm going to just kind of like, you tell me when I've gotten too deep into this, okay?
No, you go
ahead.
I think for one thing, we released the wrong single. The very first single off of Buffalo Springfield should have been "Do I Have to Come Right Out and Say It?" It was much more radio accessible. It had a message that was more accessible to more people than nowadays Clancy Can't Even Sing, which was I love the song. I have played it for years in my own set with a little medley. But I think that might have helped Neil out if he would have had a vehicle such as us to see that he had a hit record. But beyond that, Bruce had immigrated. There were 3 Canadians in the band.
Yes.
Dewey, Neil, and Bruce were all Canadians. And so Bruce had immigration problems. Back in the day, what he was doing, like today would have looked like nothing, I mean, have a little marijuana, nothing. Mm-hmm. But back then it was a big situation, and Bruce, had problems and was deported a couple times. And so here we are trying to replace him. And then at a moment's notice, we didn't know if Neil was going to be there or not. We were headed back to New York and Boston, and we had a Johnny Carson show that we were supposed to do. And Neil, I'm not going. He just left us hanging, and we actually, that was the only place I can remember that we ever got fired was back in Boston. We were at this little club in Boston, and there were just 4 of us. And after the first night, they said, "Well, you guys don't come back," But
there's always that guy in every band, y'all.
Yeah.
But so that was really the problem. In 2 years, there were 9 people. I mean, we've tried to replace, Bruce, I don't know on how many different occasions. And once we tried to replace Neil. And so, by the time, we hit the end, like I said, as long as Stephen was there, I would be there. And you could just tell, you got a sense that it was really over. Jimmy and I, who was the last bass player, he was number 9.
I buried Paul.
I buried Neil.
He was number 9. And we struck up a pretty good friendship. Jimmy, I have to say, was really he was really good, with me. I wasn't quite as confident as Neil and Stephen were in their motivations at the time, and Jimmy and I really locked in and became good friends, and together, we kind of put together the idea for Poco. But when we just found out, after we did a Beach Boy tour and came back, and what, we could just sense that it was over. It was over. Stephen was off with Mike Bloomfield, and
right.
I'm losing track of who I want to say now, but there was that little trio band that he did, and Neil was off just doing his own thing, you know, and it was just over. It wasn't anything. I mean, we tried. I can still see Stephen at one point in time standing out in back of where our manager Charlie Green and Brian Stone. I can see him throwing rocks up at the window of their office. And you've got to get Bruce back. You know?
Oh no!
No way.
I mean, we tried to keep it together, but you know, it was just an impossibility.
See, and none of that is reaching us. So we're just going, all the songs they didn't write and didn't record. How could they? It was the funniest.
I felt that way when the Monkees broke up, Bob. I understand.
We've all got our stories, you know, about stuff like that. All right, what else you got there, Susan or Paul? Anyone? I got.
Well,
I got Russ Broussard here with Susan
because that's my husband's name, and I'm on his computer because I'm not computer savvy.
We're not introducing an identity crisis here. This is just
my name is Paul, and I know that your birth name is Paul Richie.
Yeah,
and
Paul Richard.
Yeah, and so Paul and Richard. We have a brother Richard, who was Bob's twin. You know, so crazy on the names. So, what made you pick Richie?
Well, my dad's name was Paul Charles. Yeah. They didn't want a junior. And so he always was known as Paul. And so I just became Richard. Didn't become Richie until I went to New York, and a guy named Eddie Miller, he started calling me Richie. He put together our folk group of the Go-Go Singers. He started calling me Richie, but I was always Richard. Now, if anybody calls me Richard, you know, I'm in trouble.
And you're in trouble. And at what age was it that you did deny your Paulness? What age was that?
Well, you know what? I was always Richard growing up, and so that was just who I was. I mean, I knew I had a first name, but in school and everything, I was always Richard.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I had another thing. Oh, you got something, Susan?
No, you go ahead.
No, I've had two or three.
Now, don't fight, you guys. Don't fight. I don't want to break anything up.
Okay.
If you hear us pause just a little, it's because we've been told now, don't talk over each other.
We're trying to be really good about that.
So we like to ask this question of all of our guests, and actually varying answers now. I mean, we asked of Bill Medley last week, and he was kind of less memorable about it. It was a big moment in our life. How was your Buffalo Springfield Ed Sullivan moment? Was that a big deal to y'all, or did you?
Did they do Ed Sullivan?
We never did Ed Sullivan.
Oh, honey, are you okay?
So you know that moment was a real heartbreaker. I mean,
you never did Sullivan. I see you on
walking down 8th Avenue there or whatever it is. You know, we never did. I'm really bummed at that too.
Oh, was he over by then? No.
Oh.
What happened?
It's funny because as soon as you asked that, I thought, how did I miss them on Ed Sullivan? How could I miss that performance?
I just assumed it. Everybody in our generation went on Ed.
I thought I saw them on Ed Sullivan with Stephen Stills with the fringe, the coat with the...
Absolutely, and thought how awkward they looked on Ed because they were hippies.
I can clear this up, Richie. I can clear this up. Okay. My two wonderful, beautiful siblings are thinking of the Hollywood Palace performance. I'm sure of it.
It was very fancy.
Yeah, we did Hollywood Palace. We did a Smothers Brothers. We did the Della Reese show.
Well, then let me tell you something, Richie. You didn't miss much, honey. It's okay.
But on Hollywood Palace, it's very cool. They're at the top of their game on Hollywood Palace, right? They look like the Beatles in Help. Okay, so so I'm watching them, and they're doing For What It's Worth. It's cool For What It's Worth. Yeah, I mean, that performance. They go into Mr. Soul, and Neil Young comes from the back into the camera. I'm going, holy mother of God!
And it rocks.
He looks rather upset.
Out of my way here I am now.
Oh man, it was rock.
The original Grizzly Adams.
It was rock god time. So Richie, the other audience I found myself in was when you did the outside concert at the reunion concert up for Neil's benefit, or it was the Santa Barbara area outside. You're going to do a reunion concert, and you're going to reunite and go on a tour. Okay. Now, first of all, so you're sitting at home and what does the phone ring? How does that come about where you say, yeah, I'll do that show? And there you are with Neil and Steve and Rick Rosas. And I'm going, how's that come about? And then after that, we're all excited. The fans are just jazzed, all fans. And you last about 6 shows. And then you go, isn't that just typical Buffalo Springfield? What happened to the world tour? I mean, what happened? Take us
don't tell us chaos and confusion. All right, we want the
No, you want the real stuff, right?
Yeah.
You want to know. I'm your fan, man.
Well,
the fans want to know.
Here's what happened. Okay, first of all, I get the phone call, and it's from Neil.
Oh.
And Neil says, "Hey, would you, Stephen?" I was talking to Stephen, and thought it would be nice if we did a bridge school. And if you would, would you like to do it? And I said, yeah. I think there was some confusion as whether he had really ever talked to Stephen about it or not. I don't know.
That's a good ploy.
Here comes the confusion.
That was the way it was approached. And I said, yeah. And they said, Joe Vitale and Rick Rosas are you going to fill in too? I mean, I missed Rick. I tell you, I was so petrified to meet him. I'd never met Rick, and he was one of the sweetest guys you would ever want to meet. I mean, I knew Joe, and Joe is the same way, but I was really petrified.
No, you're right about Rick, because
Rick had a spirit about him that was
but he's right about, if you hadn't talked to him yet or met him, you look at him, he's very imposing, and you think, well, will he even speak to me?
He came to the Canyon Club after the whole thing was all over, and my band was playing there, and I kind of singled him out. He was sitting there with Elizabeth, and she said he just broke down into tears. It was just wow. But he just was that sensitive guy. But anyway, so I was told when we were doing the shows that I would be doing these interviews, letting people know that there was going to be, not only these 6 shows and the one at Bonnaroo afterwards, but we were going to do a 30-day tour.
Yeah.
And I remember, and so I was the one. Neil wasn't gonna do it. Stephen didn't want to do it. I was the guy that was told, "You're elected. You're going to be doing the interviews, and you're going to be telling people." I can remember being at Bonnaroo doing an interview, and Stephen was sitting right beside me, and I said, "Yeah, and we're going to be doing a 30-day tour." And Stephen looked at me like, "What are you talking about?" He says, but anyway, we did the shows, and doing those shows, because we tried to do a reunion in the 80s, and it was a train wreck. It was absolutely, it was awful.
Buffalo Springfield star-crossed, man.
You're older and wiser now. So,
and when we got together this time in San Francisco, I went out a couple days early to sit down with Neil, and we just started going over some songs. And I think one of the reasons was we went over "Kind Woman," and because it was out of time in Poco and in Buffalo Springfield. But interestingly enough, by this time, I had released an album called Heartbeat of Love, and I had Neil actually play on Kind Woman, which is the time that I put it all in straight time. And so I said, "Neil, man, there's no problem. Wow. Just do it like you played it, when you played it on Heartbeat of Love." But anyway, to get back to your point, all of the shows, I mean, they were so easy. Everything just seemed to just easy. And after we did, we did the bridge school, and then there was a little bit of time in between, and then we did up in Oakland or Berkeley, I think it was, and we did Los Angeles, and we did Santa Barbara, and then we did Bonnaroo. After every show, we got together. After every show, we got together in the dressing room, and just everybody was just really having a great time. Every single show.
That's awesome.
Except for Bonnaroo. When we walked off the stage at Bonnaroo, I never saw anybody again.
What happened?
Whoa.
Why?
Oh, come on.
You guys.
Wait.
This is how they roll. They did this.
No.
everybody just went to their own bus, and I'd never had a bus before, but I had a bus for that tour. But everybody just went to their separate. We didn't go to the dressing room. We didn't go to any. We just went back to our buses, and that was it.
Wow. So that was your last show?
That was our Bonnaroo was our last show.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And I got a call. I think it was a call. Yeah, I got a call from Neil a little bit after that. And he said, yeah, well, maybe we'll get together and try it again or do it again. He did say try. He said, well, maybe we'll do it again. And I have had probably one or other two phone calls from him, but nothing about, that again. But that's how it happened. It just everything. Yeah. We were so together for every one of those shows.
So interesting. Yeah.
Except at Bonnaroo. At Bonnaroo, when we finished up there, it was like everybody was off in their own world and goodbye, see you later.
Whoa, maybe it's separation anxiety, perhaps, fear of saying goodbye. Who knows?
Well, thank you for that answer.
The 30-day tour, though, never happened.
Gotcha.
That's crazy.
I was told, and I'm not sure, I can't verify it, but I was told that the Hollywood Bowl was booked. I was told that Radio City Music Hall was booked, both coasts, and that Red Rocks was booked.
Oh.
So there we were, but, that's it.
Jeez.
Well, whatever is meant to be is meant to be,
Absolutely.
That's how that is.
Bring us up to date, because I'm mad at Buffalo Springfield again.
Wait. I want to talk about up to date, because I want to bring you to 2020, because I am completely fascinated with your farewell tour. That was supposed to be, but you only had one farewell show?
Yeah.
Why farewell, number one? And then sorry about the only show. So is there going to be one more farewell show to kind of make it feel like it was a farewell tour? Or how are we going to do this?
Who knows? With this COVID thing, I don't know how anything's going to happen. And as far as farewell goes, I've always said I am willing to do as many one-offs as, really fit into the schedule and that I can do. With my voice today, I can't probably go out there and do, a week's worth of, because my songs are not that easy sometimes to sing. Mm-hmm. And they take a toll on me, and at 70, I'll be 77 in May.
What?
And,
I know 44, I'm just not good at math. You don't, nah.
But anyway, it'd be hard for me. But I've got so many projects right now going on that I don't even know what to do. But that project that was scheduled for SOPAC back in New Jersey, where my manager, David Stone, has booked me in there on more than one occasion, and they've just been super, super shows. But I've always said, like, I've got a thing right now. Dave Mason has called and said, hey, you want to do a couple things? Because I did a whole little West Coast tour with him the year before COVID set in.
Wow.
And so, I'm willing to do and want to do one-off things, but so it's not a farewell thing. You guys know, man, once you got this stuff in your blood, you get the
farewell is the farewell.
Yeah, it's like, it's when you're horizontal. I think that's
amen to that.
Or as we put it, we will bop till we drop. And
that's what we say. Okay, so then I want to bring you to then this country record, this country covers, and I want to say that it's kind of cool because as I'm reading about it, there are a lot of people and they're dear loved ones of ours, Waddy, number one, but also you worked with Val Garay, who we've known for years. In fact, a little nickname we had from back in the day was Gucci Garay.
Oh, Gucci Garay, I'm writing that
Gucci
down,
Garay.
man.
Tell him you saw Susan Cowsills and she said, say hi to Gucci Garay for me. But how was that? And what a cool thing. And that sounds like awesome. Fun.
It all happened at the Wild Honey show. Val came to the show.
Saw him.
I've known Val as probably you have for as long as I can remember. I mean, from Buffalo Springfield day. I mean, my wife made little Nehru shirts for him as well. When he was in the Great Sunflower or whatever that group.
He is amazing in every way.
I've known Val forever, and I mean, what a success story. I mean, he's just so well. And he and my good friend Michael Miller, I don't know if you know Michael. Michael's his partner, but Michael was very instrumental in putting me and my wife together. 54 years.
Wow.
But they are partners, and so they come to the show, and they're also real good friends with Dickie Davis. I don't know if you know Dickie or not.
No.
Well, that's a little circle of friends that we had, and they all came to the show at the Wild Honey. And so Val says, "Hey, what would you think about doing an album of country classics?" And I'm thinking, well, what does that mean to you? You know, I want to know what this all means. And so he said, well, let's just, if it's someplace to start, let's just start throwing songs around. I'll send you a list of songs. Michael will send songs and you send songs to us, and let's see what happens. Well, when the very first song on Val's list was a song that I have wanted to record.
Oh my goodness, I'm getting chills.
Since I heard it in the mid 90s.
Kismet.
I said, okay, we're on to something now. The song was called Your Love Amazes Me. I don't know if you know that song or not. If you don't know it, Google it, by John Barry. And it's called Your Love Amazes Me. And that was on Val. That was Val's #1 song. And I'd wanted to record that forever. And so that was like the tipping point, and said, let's just go further. And we ended up with 14 songs that we recorded in 4 days in Nashville.
4 days.
In 4 days. Yep. We recorded 14 songs in 4 days. And in fact, we recorded the only song that wasn't a big country hit. Well, there were actually 2 songs that were not big country hits. One of them was Picking Up the Pieces. Which is the very last song that we recorded on the last day. And it was like one take. Wow. And I told the guys, I said, let's not do this in a Nashville vein. Let's try and do it in a Bakersfield vein. And so that ended up there. The other song was a Buddy Miller song that quite a few people have done. Actually, his wife wrote the song. It's called Written in Chalk. And the first time that I heard that song, it was like I just played it over and over and over and over and over again. And I said, that's another song that I have to do. When I played it for Val, Val said, that's one we've got to do. And so we ended up with these 14 songs, and it goes all the way back to Lonesome Town, because Ricky Nelson had such a on my life that we did Lonesome Town. And then, you know, we did things like I Hope You Dance, the Leanne Womack song.
Yep.
Oh, God, that song kills me.
And what did you call this piece of work?
Yes.
Well, I think we're calling it Richie Furay in the Country.
Richie Furay in the Country.
Nice.
So we're going to look for that. Now, what about a documentary we're hearing about?
Well, let me just finish here. This is coming out in June. So I've got the Troubadour thing that's coming out here already next month. And it's after all, I mean, COVID just put everything on, as you know.
Yes, we do know.
And so it's all officially coming out, I think, April 2nd. And then Val just told me yesterday that BMG is going to release the country album in June. And then 2022 is when the documentary will come.
But there's nothing farewell about
I hope I'm still alive to see all this stuff happen.
Yeah, I hear that.
That's all I ever hear from these guys anymore.
Certainly nothing farewell going on. Well, it sounds like you're viable and still happening like crazy. So, we'll look for one more last attempt to get Buffalo Springfield back together, maybe. And
Bob, quit beating it.
Yeah, Bob.
Dead horse.
Don't hold your breath, Bob.
Horse, Bobby.
I think it's done, man.
Like, I don't know.
I know never say never, but I'm telling you, it's.
I know. I'm joking.
So, I'll tell you what, Richie, I want to offer a little something up. If ever you're hankering and you call Steve, you call Neil, and everybody's blah, 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 busy this, busy that, just call the Cowsills kids. We'll go up and pretend to be Buffalo Springfield with you.
Heck yeah. Absolutely. We do all their stuff.
I did the math between Richie Furay and me. We sang "Kind Woman" about 7,842 times.
Okay.
I've recorded that song. I don't know how many times. I know.
Poco
and solo, but Kenny Loggins and Neil Young are both on it.
Oh, awesome.
Heartbeat of Love is a very interesting project that I did, because I have Neil on it, Steven's on it, Timothy B's on it, Jeff Hanna's on it, Mark Volman is on it.
Wow. Bossy.
I'm trying to think. Mark and I Mark, when I was looking for a place to live, he said, hey, come on up here. I got a place on Lookout, man.
Dude. I wish you'd do that now. If you could just move in with him, and then I would stop worrying about him. But anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Totally.
Yeah, he's in Nashville now,
He sure is. And hey, when you see Timmy B. Schmidt, will you please tell him Susan Cowsills says hello?
I will say that.
Thank
Susan,
you.
For sure, I will. Absolutely.
I really do. Gucci Garay and Hated Tim.
And when you bump into all the other members that used to be in Buffalo Springfield, and Bob Cowsills was a big fan of theirs. I'm sure they'll be quite impressed.
Again, don't hold your breath, Bob.
I know.
I wrote to Stephen for something. I just texted Stephen a while back. I don't know for what it was, but it took him probably 2 months to get back to me, and then it was
God
like it was just
him.
his answer was just yesterday. It was
my God, I love
it.
So Richie, look, I had a ton more questions. I know the guys did. We're gonna just have to have you back.
Yeah, I think so.
If it works for you, it works for me.
Yes, part 2 with Richie. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Everybody, we want to thank Richie Furay, and look for the documentary, look for the country album. He's got a lot going on. He is a
Richie Furay in the country, y'all.
Yep.
And are you still looking for help on that documentary?
Yeah, what you want to do?
Well, to tell all the people out here who are listening to go to the page.
Absolutely. Yeah, they'll just have to go to my website, and we're still
looking for help.
It's still in
We'll
process.
get the information put in if it's in time. We'll definitely
People,
work on that.
You need to know documentaries are what you spend money on to not make money. So you want to support this and do that.
It's kind of neat because Cameron Crowe did the trailer for it.
The narration.
And we're talking right now, and hopefully you'll be doing voice part for the whole thing now. I mean, Cameron and that was an interesting thing. I saw him appear on my social media, Facebook page.
Oh, how cool! What a cool name to spot.
Now, who else has a name Cameron Crowe, or who's playing with me here,
Nobody.
And so I send him that thing, and I say, hey, Cameron, we haven't seen each other, because I was his first interview.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
I was his first interview. And so I said, if this is really you, I'm doing a show with Timothy B at the Saban Theater in December, and I'd love you to come. And he wrote back and he said, it's really me, and I'll be there. And we reconnected after I don't know how many years of all that stuff. So that was, I'm sorry to just keep throwing that stuff in.
No, man, we love this.
Imagine seeing a name like that. That is so big that you have to ask that person, are you you?
Are you really you?
Is that really you?
Yeah.
All right.
No, listen, though, we are going to have you back, Richie, because there's way more to talk about.
Yeah, we'll call
I'd love to. You guys are great. This has been just a fun time for me, because I'm looking for 6 feet of snow now. So
yeah, man. We're gonna check back on you. Make sure you're not 6 feet under that snow, brother. Yeah. Bob, who are we having next week?
Next week we have Peter Noon. Peter Noon is a great guy.
He was at my wedding.
He was at your wedding? OMG. Oh, seriously.
Wow. He's going to tell us all about his mother, who got tired of introducing her son to her friends as, this is my son, Peter. Herman from Herman's Hermits. He's got a great story about that. He's got a great story.
Can I just tell you one thing about him?
Please.
Okay, we were, my band was playing in Santa Barbara. I don't know how, this was probably maybe, I don't know. I'm going to say it was probably 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And my buddy, he says, as Peter's coming through he's putting his, picking up his luggage. I'll get it out in a minute,
Oh, we got plenty of time.
My buddy said, that's Peter Noon over there. I looked over there. I said, that's not Peter Noon. He was at my wedding. I am Peter Noon. He says, that's Peter. I got a gift. That's Peter. And so I kind of, secretly just went around and said, Peter. And he looked up at me, and we hadn't seen each other, and I don't know how many. He looked, Richie Furay, I don't believe it's been 40 years since I've seen you.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
He is a great guy. He is a great guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a lot of fun.
So just at the very end, a quick thing that we're noticing. We call you Richie Furay, and you say Richie Furay. What is the correct pronunciation?
It's Furay.
Oh, can we start the whole thing over, y'all, and get that right?
Let's go back and do this again.
No, yeah, we'll come back and we'll call you the right name. Hey, maybe we'll call you Paul Furay and just really mess it up.
Well, you know what? I have to do that. I have to be Paul now.
Yeah.
With all the official stuff, I have to be Paul.
I got another group that
I need a scenic. I gotta go.
All right, everybody. Next week with Peter Noon, Richie Furay will be with you again. It's a fun visit.
Thank you, Richie Furay.
Bless
we
you
love
guys.
you.
What fun. It was great. Good seeing you again, Susan. And
you too.
Good seeing you, Bob and Paul.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you so much.
See you, Richie.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Peace out, y'all, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot, Richie. You were great. Yep. You're so good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to tell everybody to get their vaccine shots. The only way we get back on stage is everybody get these darn shots.
Good point.
Let's get her done.
Gotta play.
Gotta play.
Oh my God.
It's like
get the shot so we can rock.
Robin Williams and Peter Pan, or that guy who gotta fly. We gotta play.
Gotta play.
All right, gentlemen.
All right, everyone.
As you were, Brady Bunch is out.